What is up, Grocknation? Welcome back this evening into the arcade again for another edition of Murders and Mysteries. There is a question that has been asked over the last 3 days in the paranormal community globally, and it is, has the Annabelle doll killed again? That's right, you guys. The haunted doll from Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum is in the headlines this week, as its caretaker, who has been taking her on a U.S. tour, has been found dead in his hotel room, I believe 3 days ago, or 4 days ago now technically, and it has everybody asking questions. We're going to discuss this and maybe come to our own conclusions, as well as an origin of this particular doll that has really made itself popular in pop culture over the last decade with the Conjuring movies in the Conjuring universe. So that's what we're going to be discussing here tonight. We're going to be trying to break down and maybe come up with our own conclusions. But before we get started again, guys, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, especially if you like spooky ASMR. But with that being said, guys, let's dig into this topic. Okay, so before we dig too far into Dan Rivera's passing a few days ago, let's kind of go over the origins of this doll, this creepy little doll, for those of you that don't know, or maybe haven't watched the Annabelle movie from the Conjuring universe, which is loosely based off of the real story. We'll discuss the origins before. So this doll was actually in possession of world-famous paranormal investigating married couple Ed and Lorraine Warren since the 70s. Now these two individuals have since passed, and I guess it fell into the hands of one of their pupils from a Society Creative Paranormal Investigators. I think it's called Paranormal, or New England Society of Psychic Research, I believe is what it's called. These were people that they trained to continue their work, paranormal investigating, after they had gone. I think Lorraine actually was the last to pass away. Had passed away, I believe, in the 90s or the early 2000s. Regardless, they obtained this little doll in the 70s and kept it in their occult museum beneath their house. All those years, they would take it out occasionally and transport it to lectures they would do. They would do a lot of lectures throughout the United States. But aside from it leaving the house a handful of times, they never ever let it leave. It was behind glass. It was blessed by a priest at least once a week, I believe. I remember Ed saying, either in an interview or in his book. And yeah, it looks like they were taking it on a world tour recently, which is where this event took place a few days ago, where I think they're all tied together. As well, there was some weird happenings in the states, in the towns that it was brought in, and over the last 2 months, that people are really putting two and two together, but going, now that she's out, is she responsible for these events? We'll discuss those, and the likelihood or unlikelihood that she was involved from that point on. But we're going to start our origin story in the actual very, very beginning. And I'm trying to go through my memory of reading the story in Ed and Lorraine, or Ed's book, The Demonologist, from the 70s, which is a great book, by the way, if you're interested in the occult, that kind of thing. It's a super, super cool book. And there's some really creepy stories in there, especially pertaining to this little doll, that aren't even about this doll's origin per se. But in 1970, in Hartford, Connecticut, there was two nursing students, Donna and Angie, and they were both going to, I'm not sure what university it was. Guys, before I continue, when Ed wrote in these books, names, places, and things like that. They changed some of them if these people didn't want to be associated or be put in those books so they're not pestered in real life. We don't know if Donna and Angie are their actual names. We don't know if it actually took place in Hartford, Connecticut. We don't know. But that is what it's said in the book. Donna's mother gave her this little Raggedy Ann doll as like a housewarming gift or an apartment warming gift for her and her roommate. And yeah, they brought it into the home, and they started to notice over the course of a few days that it would be moved from places they had actually moved it from. They had put it in a living room couch, for example, and they would come home and it would be in a bedroom sitting up on the bed. They thought the other one was playing tricks on the other, and it wasn't until they actually physically seen it moving that they freaked out, and they got a hold of a psychic medium, I believe it was, that talked to the doll, I guess, or the spirit that was attached to it, and it told the medium that it was the spirit of a little girl that had tragically been struck by a vehicle at that location, and her spirit is in the doll, like Annabelle. And so they agreed to keep Annabelle as like their little pet. They would put her up at tables at supper time and have her sitting watching TV with them and whatnot. They would see it moving occasionally and they wouldn't be frightened of it anymore. They assumed it was this little girl. They were doing everything that a demonologist or a paranormal investigator that deals with the occult, particularly demons, tells you is a massive, massive red flag. Because in demonology, the biggest thing you can do to empower a demon is to give it attention. Literally is the main thing that powers it. And give it permission to be around and be around you and for you to accept it. So when this medium asked him through Annabelle asked him through the medium if they would accept her into the home and everything, and they did. That was a huge, huge mistake on their part. Because the ultimate goal of a demon, this is all according to demonologists, guys, is to get into your life and eventually control you enough to get you to do an evil deed, whether it be a murder, eventually kill yourself as well, is something they're always after. Things along those lines, that's what they're trying to do. Possession, in the end, is what it is, which requires exorcism, obviously. But there's all these different steps Ed talks about in his books. And they were almost at the second stage. They were almost at possession when the Warrens were called. So they didn't call the Warrens initially. It wasn't until a gentleman called Lou, which, I'm sorry, I can't recall if he was a boyfriend of Donna's or he was just a neighbor. It was a male anyway. He hated the doll. When he would be over there and visit, he would move it different places if they'd have it sitting at the table. And one night, I do believe he was a boyfriend of one of theirs because I think he had just had sex with whichever one he was with. And he was coming out into the living room. And he said he smelled a foul odor and he heard something standing behind him, like something big and evil. And when he turned, there was nothing there, but he got struck in the chest. He was bare-chested. That's how I know he was definitely a partner to one of those girls. And there was a claw mark on his chest. That went away after an hour or so. It completely disappeared. It was a burning claw mark and it disappeared. So they somehow got into touch with the Warrens. They were suggested to go and talk to the Warrens, rather. They were directed there. And of course, Ed and Lorraine went and investigated. Lorraine is a clairvoyant. You can see things on different planes. Clairvoyancy, I don't want to get too far into it, but she immediately knew that this doll wasn't a doll of a little girl. It was a demon that was there. The demon was moving the doll. The doll itself wasn't alive. The demon was attached to the doll. And of course, they removed it for the girls. There was a big thing in there about how the claw mark on Lou's chest that burned was from a demon strike, because a demon can't hurt God's creation directly or something like that. I can't remember how Ed talks about it. So their marks can't be left, but the heat of it is from like the hell or whatever. Like their temperature is up because they're beings from hell. Yeah, there's all sorts of weird things with demons and a demonologist Ed talks about, such as when they appear to you, they don't appear whole. They can never ever appear whole. So if you're into this kind of thing, and you believe in this kind of thing, and maybe you have a relative that passed away, a mother, a brother, a father, whatever it may be. I don't know if you guys can hear Archie, he's twitching back there. And they come to you in a premonition, like they manifest themselves at your bedside, whatever it may be. As incredible as that would be to see, for you to think in the moment, you should be looking to see if they're whole. Are they have their legs, they have their eyeballs. Usually it's the eyes, is what Ed says. They don't have eyes. Something. They cannot create a perfect being of God. Like, a God's creation is a man. And like I said, if you believe in a devil, you believe in God, and vice versa. So, demons work for the devil. And a demon can't create a perfect being that God created, so they always have something missing. Arms, eyes, legs, their floating torso, something. That's a big red flag, is what Ed says. And you're not actually talking to this relative of yours, or you think you are. You're actually talking to a demon. So, and in this case, this demon was moving this doll around. It wasn't actually the doll. So the first kind of spooky thing with this and Ed's book is they drove the doll home, and it kept stalling out their car, especially on turns. It would stall it out to the point where they're almost on head-on collisions with other vehicles. Ed had to keep pulling over on the side of the road and splashing holy water onto it. I think in the movie he looks in the rearview mirror, there's a demon sitting back there, but no. It kept trying to crash their vehicle, basically, Ed says. So Ed, got it home. They put it in the case. They blessed it, holy salts, all that thing, just to keep it in there. And initially he didn't have it in the case. He just put it downstairs. And in the demonologist, he talks about how he would hear strange noise, loud shrieking cats, and footsteps, and growls. And then he finally brought that little doll upstairs, and he put the doll in his study where he was doing his work, making calls, and he kept it there. He said at one point he's seen black mist coming out of it and whatnot, and that's when they finally decided to contain it. It was too dangerous to not be contained, so they put it in a glass with the salts and a priest that would come by the Occult Museum once a week and bless everything, would bless it as well. So that is where it stayed this entire time. Obviously until recently. So that's the origin of that little doll. That's how it came about. That's where they got it from. They obviously, like I said, they made a whole movie, a franchise out of it. I think they made 3 movies: Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Coming Home. I believe it was 3 of them. But yeah, that was the origin of the little doll. So we should talk about the death it's responsible for, and this is according to Warrens. And again, it's a lot like this situation happened a few days ago. It might not be, but at the same time, it's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? A big coincidence, right? Ed talks about in the Demonologist how a man who some people say was a priest, some people say wasn't. They were doing a tour in their occult museum, which was would have been a bucket list of mine to do if I was an adult at the time. When they were still alive, I would have made the trek out there just to see that museum. And there was a man that was amused, like he thought it was a joke, the Annabelle story. So as the tour moved on, he went up to the glass and he was tapping on the glass and telling, taunting the doll, saying, "Oh, little doll, if you're so dangerous, Tom, would you just scratch me then?" Because Ed told the story about Lou getting scratched. So Ed got angry at this guy and he actually kicked him out of the tour, him and his girlfriend. So they left. And I guess on their way home, they got into an accident, and the man died, and the girlfriend just sustained injuries. She survived, but Ed is positive that that was a direct result of it haunting that demon. Now, again, a demon can't harm you physically itself. It has to cause someone else to murder you or an accident to take place. It kind of talks about that as well. It caused that car crash. It tried to get Ed to crash. It can cause events that could cause you to hurt yourself or, kill yourself. But he figures that's what happened with that. Which is a theory we're going to talk about with this Dan Rivera, and why maybe it's unlikely that Annabelle was a direct result in his passing. But that's the origins, and that is the story of Annabelle's supposed first, I don't want to say murder, but casualty, we'll call it. And whether or not this one a few days ago was a casualty of hers as well. So now we get to this event that happened a few days ago with Dan Rivera. Dan Rivera was the lead investigator on the New England Society for Psychic Research, and they were bringing Annabelle on a tour of the Occult Museum selected artifacts from the museum, on a tour in the United States called the Devil's on the Run tour. And he passed away in a Pennsylvania hotel. Apparently the doll was not present, though they figure the doll was actually in his van in the parking lot. There was some weird stuff with this tour before we get into his actual passing. There was a report, I remember seeing it on X, that Annabelle actually went missing while they were in Louisiana, and this Nottoway plantation had caught fire during the time she had gone missing. So they were wondering if she was responsible for that as well. Around that time, those prisoners went missing in NOLA. So everyone was like kind of putting all these together, like she was out and she got escaped from this van or whatever where they were transporting her from. Dan Rivera went on Twitter or X, or I think it was TikTok, not long after that, and he showed Annabelle in the museum still, and that she hadn't in fact not escaped, but maybe she was, and they just never said anything, right? You don't know. Regardless, we should look over this Dan Rivera death before we kind of discuss it, and I'll discuss my theories on what might have happened, but we should read the report. So let's just go with that report first off and find out exactly what was going on with this Devil's on a Run tour and everything that's known right now with the death of Dan. So here's an article we are going to go over. Why was the Annabelle doll on tour? The doll was part of the Devil's on the Run tour, according to a post from the New England Society for Psychic Research. The Devil's on a Run tour celebrates the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren and displays Annabelle for those brave enough to face her. One of the tour's key highlights is the infamous Annabelle doll, which, despite its seemingly innocent appearance, has been the cause of numerous terrifying incidences. The doll has reportedly brought misfortune, injury, and even death to those that have interacted with it inappropriately. In May, Annabelle was rumored to have been missing from the Connecticut Museum. Rivera took to TikTok to assure viewers of the doll's whereabouts. I want to assure you guys that Annabelle is in the Warrens Occult Museum. Let's go inside and check, he said. He then brought the camera into the museum and filmed the doll behind the glass. Tony Spear, the Warrens' son-in-law, also spoke to NBC News in May, saying Annabelle was not missing, but rather on a national tour. The fact of the matter is that doll was never out of sight, never out of control. Out of our control. It's in a protective case. Many precautions were taken to make it safe, Spira said. What happened to Dan Rivera? The handler for the Annabelle doll, paranormal investigator Dan Rivera, died at age 54 on July 13th. Rivera was found in a hotel room in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, according to Adams County Chief Deputy Coroner Scott Pennywell, who noted nothing suspicious. Rivera had completed a stop on the Devil's on the Run tour called Annabelle in Gettysburg earlier that day. The coroner's office and the state police were called to the scene Sunday night. He did go for an autopsy today, and it's pending, Pennywell said July 15th. Autopsy results will likely be available within 60 to 90 days. Where is the Annabelle doll now? The Annabelle doll was not present on the scene, Pennywell noted, adding that Rivera was found alone. He said Annabelle could have been inside the van in a parking lot, though. He was unable to confirm the doll's location. That is according to Today.com. So, let's kind of break down some things I've read as well, and whether or not Annabelle was responsible for this gentleman's passing. Dan Rivera was 54 years old. He was an army vet. All the videos and clips, and I've shown you guys some here of him. Relatively, he looks like he's in shape. He died from a cardiac event, is what the post on X said. Police responded to a cardiac event with a male, and he was found deceased on location, so he died of like a heart attack or something. They say the doll was not present on the scene. We'll see what happens when the official report comes out. I would not be surprised if the doll was in the room with him, or if there was signs that maybe it was in the room and then now it's in the garage or in the van. But regardless, he was in contact with this doll. It seems like a coincidence to me. That's the way I'm looking at it. That this doll that normally is in that occult museum, it never ever leaves. It's only ever really left with the Warrens back in the day. Suddenly goes on this tour where they're removing it from the museum. I don't know about the plantation fires or those prisoners escaping or anything like that if it goes missing, but this man dying, it seems like a really big coincidence this man would die during this tour. So, for me, the jury's out. I don't know if Annabelle is actually directly responsible, because once again, there's so many different ways a demon has to kill you. I don't think a demon could cause a heart attack in you. I don't know. I don't know enough about the occult. Maybe something he's seen, something it did that brought such fear into him that maybe, he was already at risk of a heart attack. Maybe he had bad cholesterol, and something with that doll did something to him. I don't know. People that are under oppression is what it's called, the first stage of possession. That live in houses that are, they're haunted with demons. They feel heaviness. They feel generally unwell. Things don't taste good for them. They go into a really dark depression. It causes physical things to start to happen to you, but in terms of it straight causing you a heart attack, like I said, they can't harm you. I shouldn't say they can't harm you. They can't kill you directly. They need something else to kill you for them. But there'd be a lot more people dead if they could. So I don't know. For me, the jury is out. I do think if I were to lean on the topic and lean, I would say for sure it had something to do with it. It's just like it's too big of a coincidence. If it happened like 6 months after this tour, when he's removing it from the house off and on, maybe not. But the fact that he was on tour with it and he was, literally staying in a hotel from bringing it on tour, and he passed away in that hotel room, it seems really suspicious to me. And it's just one of those things, man, like even people that don't believe in the occult, don't believe in any of that, you have to stop and think now and go, wow, maybe there is something to this. Because a lot of people don't respect the Warrens, especially those, even some in the paranormal community. Because, as good at people as they were, they did exploit the people that they worked with. They wouldn't involve them in book deals, etc. They would exaggerate stories, which for me is, you're not outright lying, but you're exaggerating it for a fact kind of deal. So what else are you exaggerating? What's bullshit? What's not? What did you sugarcoat kind of deal? So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. I think it's very suspicious, and like I said, if I had to lean one way, I would lean towards, I think the doll would definitely be responsible for it. It's one of those situations, man, you play the bull, you get the horns, though. Something that dark, something that, evil. You fuck around, sometimes you find out, man, unfortunately for this guy. But again, let me know what you guys think down below about what happened and about this doll. Maybe you guys don't believe in it, maybe you do, let me know. But with that being said, guys, have a great day, great night, whatever it may be, and peace out. Peace out, peace out, peace out, peace out, peace out, peace out. Peace out, guys. Bye.